Hello and welcome to the city of Cupertino. I'm sure you're all here to learn about how to better prepare yourself against being hacked. It's a very timely conversation today. As you've probably noticed, a lot of news about companies and cities being attacked. And the latest one is a city in Florida, $600,000 demand that they paid to be able to get their data back. Atlanta has paid about $17 million to date to recover data that they lost. And these are the cities and the companies that you hear about. But clearly, individuals are being hacked as well. You probably all have received an email from my friend, the Nigerian prince, saying that you've won $1 million. Those are all fake. So we're going to talk about that a little today. So again, I'm Bill Mitchell. I'm the Chief Technology Officer for the city of Cupertino. With me today, I have Narayan Makaram, and Narayan is going to give a presentation on cybersecurity. And this is in conjunction with the Technology, Information, and Communication Commission. This is a very timely presentation. Today, we're going to be video recording. So if you have a question, raise your hand, we'll get a mic to you, and then we'll mic it that way so when we're playing back the video, everybody will be able to be heard. So with further ado, Narayan, thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Can you all hear me? Good morning. Thank you for taking the time on this weekday to come here and listen to this presentation. The presentation, as you saw, is about protecting your data from being hacked by cybersecurity criminals in the wild, wild west of the internet. So internet is truly a wild, wild west in that area right now. And I would first of all want to thank Bill Mitchell and the Cupertino Technology Commission for inviting me. I've been a long-time Cupertino resident for over 15 years. My kids went to school in Lincoln, Kennedy, and Monte Vista, and now we have moved to West San Jose. And I have worked in the cybersecurity industry for over 25 years now in companies like HP, Hewlett-Packard, which was here in Prune Ridge and Wolf, long-time HP employee, FireEye, Tenable, Arctic Wolf, and lately, Arctic Wolf Networks, which was the recent company. And now I have my own cybersecurity consulting company where I help people, product companies, with their marketing and messaging. So, as Bill mentioned, a lot of cities have been hacked lately. Over 22 cities in the last 1 year have been hacked. But this presentation is not about how to protect cities. It is about how to protect you as a citizen. What sort of cybersecurity hygiene do you have to maintain to really protect yourself from being hacked on your personal devices? Especially in this day and age where you have so many different personal devices which are connected all the time to the internet, any pilot error by you can really impact you. So if you look at it, cyber hygiene is hygiene over the internet. So it's just like, how do you practice hygiene to protect yourself from a cold or a flu? So there are top 10 things you could do to protect yourself from a cold or a flu. First of all, you should take your flu shots, wash your hands as many number of times, especially when you get into the bathroom and come out and touch that knob. And of course, get good sleep, good exercise, and so on. But if you really don't protect yourself, this is the consequence you can suffer on the internet. You can be hacked. You won't even know you've been hacked. You will get to know that after the fact. And with this presentation, what I would like to do is, from a uneducated, or at least, we are talking about Silicon Valley here, so I'm sure there are a lot of people here who are already savvy in the things I'm going to talk about. But at least being knowledgeable, and from a lack of knowledge I would like you to think of yourselves as a cyber ninja by the time you get out of this presentation. So I'll give you the simple tools of how to recognize certain kinds of threats, and from them, what not to do and what to do as best practices. And so I'm going to cover specific kinds of threats. And this is what I'm going to cover in the next 30 minutes. So I'll keep the presentation short. I would like to make it very interactive. So especially when you have any questions, at the end of any slide, please raise your hand, and somebody will bring you a microphone and speak into the microphone when you ask the question, so that way your question gets recorded as a part of the presentation. And towards the end, we will spend as much time as we can in the leftover time to answer any of your questions. And no question is stupid or dumb. Anything is fine. We are here all to learn. So this is what I'm planning to present in the next 30 minutes. Protecting your digital persona. So understanding what is part of your digital persona, where does it reside, and how do you protect it. Second, I'm going to talk about the top 4 common ways of cyber attacks which can impact you working on your laptop or your mobile phone. How do you recognize it, and how do you prevent it? And finally, I'm going to finish it off with the top 10 ways of protecting yourself with the top 10 cyber hygiene best practices. Fair enough? Does anybody have any question on the agenda at all? Okay. So let me get started then. So protecting your digital persona. So what is a digital persona? So digital persona comprises of all these things. Your personal identifiable information, or what is called as PII data, which could include your username, your password, telephone number, addresses, emails, contact information, social security number. And as you go down the line, they become more and more valuable to, even social security number is very valuable, but more and more valuable. Your geolocation, for example. Where all are you purchasing, and what are you browsing? What is in your basket before you even pay for it? Your work history, your financial data, your bank accounts, your investment accounts, your credit history, and so on. So if you Google yourself, if possible right now or later, you'll find out there are certain kinds of information which is publicly available already. Your address is publicly available because you put it in, and it's registered with the city on a public site, so when Google crawls through the internet, it knows about your address. Your telephone number is already publicly available, but your social security number should not be. Your bank account should not be publicly available. Your credit history should not be. But what happens is, hackers not only target your personal systems, but they target the repository where it is kept in the cloud, and they break in and then publish the information over the internet, so other people can have that information and exploit it. For example, Equifax, which is one of the 3 credit rating agencies, was hacked 2 years back, where the records of not only your credit information, what all loans did you apply for, where was your credit card used, that was hacked. 150 million users' credit card records were stolen. It was sold in the black on the dark web. So anybody who has access to it can apply on your behalf for a loan, get a loan without your knowledge. So it's as bad as that. In India, the tax identity number, or SSN number, is called as Aadhaar card, where 500 million Aadhaar card records were stolen from the central repository. That gives you access in India. It's your unique identity to not only your tax records, but your medical history, everything. So it is really a big thing when you give information to somebody. You better make sure whether only if they need it, you need to give it. So you need to give your social security number to your loan officer because they need to run a credit check. But you should not be giving it to any e-retailer. They don't need your social security number. So you need to think before you give. Addresses, of course, is public information, so your addresses is fine. In fact, you can Google it, and people can not only find out where you live right now, but where all you have lived in the last three or four times when you moved, right? So this is called as your digital persona. Any questions here? Microphone, please.
I'm not sure if it's off topic, but how do we know what are legitimate needs for the social security number and what aren't? You said you need to check before you give over certain private information like social security number. How do we know what are legitimate needs, like who has a legitimate
So
need?
I think asking a question of why do you need it?
Okay.
You just ask a question of why do you need it? What purpose? What are you going to use it for? And if they can't give you a right answer, don't give it. For example, you get a support guy on the internet calling you and saying, I want to log into your system and get access. Can you give me your password? No, sorry, I can't give you the password. So ask why, and that will kind of give you an idea. And you need to know what is more critical information in your digital identity and what is less critical. Social security number is the most critical. Your passwords are most critical. Your account numbers you can give because you need to give account. You already are entering your account numbers for automatic transactions happening in your utility company, where you have to, it has to be automatically withdrawn. But those account numbers are susceptible because the utility company can be hacked. So, but it only affects your account number. With social security number, it applies to all your account numbers, all your credit card numbers, and so on. So it is more critical. It's a central way of your financial identity. And so that is probably the highest, most critical information which you should not be giving to anybody. Okay? So where all does the digital identity reside? Of course, it resides in the cloud right now. Everything resides in the cloud. There's nothing private about you, and everything is available in the cloud. But how does it get there? It gets from your handheld devices. So you are providing it. That's how it gets there. So it gets there from the devices in your homes, like your Nest, your refrigerator, all the IoT devices, internet. IoT stands for Internet of Things. So thank you. Basically, there's no private information in these devices because you're not putting your social security number there. But there's one private information, the administrator's user identity and the password. So that is typically provided by the manufacturer. It's a default password. So if the default password is not changed by you, anything which gets to your home network through your cell phone or your laptop, the malware can migrate from there to this Internet of Things, and it can be hacked, and it can be misused. Somebody can control your thermometer from your temperature from outside. Then from there, at work, you go from single-purpose devices like Internet of Things to multi-purpose devices. Your single-purpose devices could be your IP phone, your IP TV, which also can be hacked. And then you have your laptop, desktop, cell phones, which have a lot more information about you, about your company, about your identity. And from there, you have on the road, you have your watch. iWatch, the Apple Watch right now, has a lot of medical information about you. It has your pulse rate, it has your blood sugar count, all of that. Now, why is that information important? It's important because a hacker can kind of release it in the public, and the insurance company can get to it, and your insurance rate will go up if they find out that you have some pre-existing conditions. So any of these devices can be hacked. And if you don't practice cyber hygiene while you're using those devices, they can be hacked. So I have a question?
Yeah, one question. I just want to share something that happens to me time and time again, which is in my personal inbox. Sometimes I get email from Apple, okay? Right in our backyard, Apple support and all that, and they claim something about either it has been locked or something or the other. And when I hover over the name of the sender, that's where I find that, okay, it doesn't seem to be official because some gobbledygook kind of names. So I try not to open anything.
So you're stealing my presentation.
Oh, sorry.
I'm going to talk about a phishing attack. I didn't share my presentation with you, but you're already ahead of me. So any other questions? So let's go ahead and compare how you protect your data with how you protect your valuables in your house, right? Your house has a perimeter, a fence, a front door, and a back door. So it has internal passages. So the front door and back door is like your network gateway provided by your ISP, the wireless router provided by ISP, which is inspecting all the traffic going in from your house to the cloud and from the cloud to the house. Then your hallways are like your passages to your rooms, which are your laptops and desktops. The hallways need to be monitored because they're with motion detector, because anybody can get into any room. And your rooms are the place where you save your information, your data. And the data can be accessed in the rooms not only from the doors in the rooms, but also from the windows, from the chimney, from your refrigerator, and so on. So they are the multiple other ways, not only from the front door, but multiple other ways into the house people can get in. And those are the applications. And then your data. Your data resides, all data is not created equal. As we said, credit card and social security numbers are of higher importance than your address. So data could be your hamburger in the fridge, the toys, the most expensive toys you have bought for your kids, or the gold or the valuable jewelry you have underneath your bed or in a security locker in the house. So you better protect the rooms which have the gold more securely than anything else. And I'm just comparing it to your network gateway, ISP provider is the edge. Their hallways is the network, which could be your Wi-Fi network in your home with 20 or more devices connected. And then you have your laptop and desktop itself, where you store your tax records and so on. So you have to think of it that way, and think of, when you think of protection, protecting your own data, think of how you really pay more importance to certain kinds of data as compared to the others. So social engineering, this is what he was talking about. People, before they attack you, they already know 90% of your information. They have gone through your Facebook posts, know who your friends are, what are you browsing to buy on the internet, what houses you own, how rich you are, all that. They do all that research beforehand, before they even knock on your door. So you can think of your house being on a public highway on the interstate when you're on the internet. People coming in and out of your house, you at least know who they are. You recognize your neighbors. If a stranger comes in, you know he's a stranger. But if your house is on the internet, on the public highway, a guy going to Las Vegas losing all his money and ready to steal your information would be on the highway. Hitchhiker who can be coming in, knocking on your door, pretending with a suit and all to be a nice guy. How do you know who it is? So you can't tell from looking at the email and the sender of the email, is it truly coming from Wells Fargo? Somebody else could be impersonating you when they're sending an email from Wells Fargo with the logo and everything. But it could be from a wrong email address. So you have to pay attention. So basically the mantra is, don't trust anyone when you're really getting people to access, come through your email or through a link on a website and so on. And even if you trust, you verify. And secondly, they are really counting on your fear. Just like I've gotten an email where my friend, who's supposed to be visiting Italy, has lost his credit card, passport, everything, and he needs money, and he needs the money wired immediately to a Western Union close by in the next block. The first thing I do when I see such an email is call my friend to say, are you really in Italy? Where are you? And then you go through and try to help, but don't use the mechanisms which always try to verify 2 or 3 times in different ways using different channels before you try to help out. And they're counting on your fear, putting pressure on you with time to say, I can't even get back on the flight, please help me. And they are basically using your ingrained behavior of how you behave in your normal environment and trying to kind of replicate that kind of behavior out on the internet. And they are abusing your trust by using your morality to a large extent. And of course, there are a lot of ignorant people who don't know all these norms, who don't have the basic cybersecurity hygiene, who succumb to such kinds of attacks. So let's switch gears and look at the four most common type of attacks, and then we can walk through it, and I'll talk about best practices. So phishing. Phishing is a type of attack which is very, very common, where an email is sent out coming probably from a trusted person, but it's fake, and it makes you click on one of the links or the attachment. Spyware. Spyware is something which you download while you're browsing on the internet. You like something, okay, let me download this and see what happens. Or you see an ad, you click a pop-up ad, you click on the ad because you like it. It's delivering you a gift, which is not only whatever it's trying to sell, but underneath that, it is also delivering a malware onto your laptop, which is going to, after that point on, log every keystroke which you type on the keyboard and capture it and send it off to the hacker. Then you have ransomware. That ransomware is what Bill was talking about. 22 cities have been attacked, where they lock up all the systems, including your building permits and so on. So in fact, the Riviera Beach in Florida, I think it was Baltimore, 1,600 homes were stopped from being constructed because the planners could not get to the building records to approve them. And finally, account hijacking. This is where your personal identifiable information can be used against you. Your passwords can be used on your behalf to come through the front door, access your account, empty your account before you know it in 2 minutes. So let's look at phishing. Phishing is where the hacker sprays and prays. He sprays an email to hundreds of people with the same message saying, your account has been compromised, give me your account number and password. And 1 out of 3 opens it, clicks on it and opens it. So the mission or the motive here to get you to open a fake account, click on a link, and reveal some personal identifiable information. And the impact is you can lose all your money. You can lose your passwords for critical sites, right? So how do you really detect it? Everything looks almost the same. How do you detect it? So this is how you detect it. In a phishing attack, in this attack, an email is coming from your Wells Fargo. It's a Wells Fargo alert, and it's coming from actually alerts at notify.wellsfargo, Fergo.com. But you don't see it closely because you see the logo, you see everything looks official, so you don't even see the source because it's so small. And secondly, you hover over the link where they are trying to really ask you to enter your username and password. That's a shortened URL, so you can't even tell where the URL is pointing to. URL stands for Universal Resource Locator, which is your web address, a web address of where it is coming from. And anybody can shorten their URL by using Google's URL shortener, and that actual URL is evil.hacking.site/phishing stealpasswords.html, right? But to you see the shortened version, you see the Wells Fargo logo, and you don't notice all these key things which you need to pay attention to. The second type of attack could be from a support site, where it's coming from Verizon, and it says, to update your profile, sign in here, and if you click on it, it is coming from some other site. Not click on it, don't click on it, hover your mouse on it. It's coming from some other site. So just don't trust the logos and the layout of what you're getting, but look into it and dig deeper, especially when it's coming from an unsolicited source. Don't even click on it, you just delete it. Or put it in your put a spam filter on it. So just click spam in your Gmail or Yahoo account, and it'll, from any time from then on, from that email address, it goes into spam. Okay? So that was phishing. Any questions on phishing?
You mentioned not clicking on the link.
Not clicking on
Not
the
clicking
link.
on the link. What is the? At what point is the excuse me. At what point is there a danger in clicking on the link? For example, just opening the website. If I have a script blocker, like I have no script on my machine, is it still a danger?
So that's a good question. I think clicking on the link alone doesn't guarantee a malware being deposited, unless it's unless you click on something where you download. So these links, some of them ask you to fill out a form where you give your private information. So there are cases where just clicking on a link could be attachment, where unless you download as a part of the attachment, malware doesn't come in. So that's a good question. So I think preventing, not even taking the first step is what I'm saying, is the type of cyber hygiene you should follow.
And if something is downloaded, does it automatically run, or does it?
Oh, it can.
Run? It can.
Oh, it can. It can automatically run. For example, if you just download a GIF file is constantly running. So a GIF file can have embedded malware in it, which can automatically run. Scripts in your Excel spreadsheet, when you click on it, an Excel spreadsheet gets downloaded. There are scripts which run automatically, and they may have embedded malware in them, which can get deposited.
So if we take that GIF example, if I download a GIF but I don't open it, would it still infect my machine?
Yes.
Even without opening it?
It can.
Got it. Okay. So downloading it and then running like a Sophos, for example, I have a Mac.
Right. So as you download it itself, so there are semantic email filters which allow you which warn you not to even open an email if it's coming from bad sources. Or if you have an antivirus check, when you're clicking on it and opening it, they look into the malware sitting inside whatever exe or a PDF which you're opening. So having antivirus software running on your machine is one of the ways you can protect. I'm going to get to that. So those are the ways you can protect it. But what I'm saying is, how do you prevent it before you even require such technologies to protect?
Okay.
Right?
So the possibility does exist, even just opening a website or even just downloading, that it can infect your machine. Okay.
Right. Any other questions? Okay, let's get to spyware. Okay. Oh, sorry.
Well, I just basically keep it simple. Anything coming through the computer, I ignore. I mean, if the IRS really wants to get in touch with me, they will. If
That's
the police
absolutely
really want
right.
to contact me, they will.
Right. So IRS never contacts you over email. They send you a letter to contact you. They don't send you an email to say log into IRS. So it's absolutely right. Keep it simple if you know it is bad, but sometimes you do interact with your friends. You do interact with Verizon
Even
Wireless.
with my friends would know me enough so that they're not going to ask me personal information about this, that, or the
Right.
other.
So
'Cause that's
true.
foolish.
That's true. But for example, Verizon may send, Xfinity may send you a thing to say, click here to select the window of time to schedule your visit, right? There, what do you do? Do you call up? Do you use old school to call up Xfinity and get into their support call center,
No,
or do you click there and enter? So it does happen. At that point, all I'm saying is, look for where the email is coming from, look for the URL, and see whether it's legitimate. That's all. But I agree. The best way to protect yourself is to disconnect your laptop from the internet. Exactly. Exactly. And do everything on, and do snail mail, take it to wherever you need to. So that's the only way, if you want a sure way of protecting yourself. But I understand what you're saying. I'm not disputing you.
Before that, it's just anything personalized.
Right. Right. So anything personal, don't give it over the internet. That's the most simplistic logic, is what you're saying, and I totally agree with you. So the impact here, there are different kinds of spyware. So there's something called as a keylogger, which malware which gets on your laptop. I'll get to the question a little later. The malware which gets to your laptop, just because you clicked on an attachment, it got in, and it logs every keystroke from then on. Adware is some sort of pop-up which comes in and you click on it, and that malware downloads, as well as your browser being hijacked because you have some sort of add-in package we added to your browser, your Chrome browser or any other browser, and the add-ins basically are running all the time, and they can really be logging keys. So with spyware, what are the 6 best practices to protect yourself? Do not visit dodgy sites which you don't really trust. Do not install software from any bad sites, so go to only marketplaces which you really know of, like the Apple Marketplace or the Android Marketplace and so on. Don't get it from anywhere else. Do not click on pop-ups. Don't click on suspicious links or files from dodgy sites. Read what you're accepting before you proceed. And finally, update your system and keep your patches up to date. Load your latest software as they come in from your OS provider or application providers, and install antivirus package. So with that, we cover spyware. So there was a question here I would like to. I think he has a question. Since Kamlesh, you already asked a question, let him.
Thank you. You mentioned earlier about setting up a spam filter, and you also said you're going to be covering it later through Norton and other things. Now, on my Gmail, there's a folder for junk, but are you talking about simply having a folder and designating it spam will automatically?
No. There are, in some of the email providers, they do already classify the emails into trash,
yes,
or spam. With trash, you can delete the email, it'll come back again. Whereas spam, it'll tell the email provider to consider it a spam email and block it right away, so it doesn't come into your inbox at all.
Okay. Now, if your email provider does not provide that, then you should get.
Then you get some sort of antivirus software or email protection. So most of Norton gives you spam protection also.
One other question. Just a couple of days ago, there's a big article, I forget, from very reputable source, either the Times or Wall Street. They talked about Chrome browser as being notorious. They said like in one day, they had like 11,000, they're exposed to 11,000 different cookies. And so this writer said that, do not use Chrome. Do you have, maybe you'll talk about it later?
I don't want to talk about specific technologies. I can talk about it later. But I think all these email providers are constantly, based on reports coming in, they're constantly updating the software and making sure it's up to par. I would trust Chrome would do that. I would trust Firefox would do that. But I use Chrome personally myself. And I like Chrome because it has a lot of add-ins and stuff which I really count on, provided I check out at least where the sources are coming from. So yeah, but just imagine Yahoo was hacked with 500 million users' emails being exposed. So you can trust nobody actually.
But
just
you don't
that,
have the concern
relatively
about
speaking, Chrome and Yahoo emails have been very reliable.
Okay. Thank you.
You have a question? I know how I'm running on time here. It's 35 minutes. So.
We can take the question later on.
No, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to make sure that when you're talking about clicking on certain things, a lot of times these days they're also using the phone to basically leave a voicemail so that you can call and either call IRS or call police or something. It's something similar. Don't trust, not to go over there, let it come through snail mail.
Yeah, always use a second method of verifying to really make sure. If you got an email from IRS, call them up and say, no, this is what I got. Tell me what did you want, and so on. Yeah.
You were talking about these pop-in ads. These are on some sites that we get into, right?
Right.
Now, the owner of the site, can't they prevent these pop-in ads being put in there?
So some of the owners of the sites are consolidators. They are providing the site for other people to put. It's like more of a shareware kind of site, a marketplace, where they're advertising, allowing advertising to go on.
It's just the money?
Just money. It's purely to make money.
So the site owner doesn't
He
check
doesn't
the
claim
veracity
any
of the...
responsibility. For example, there are sites which are like Airbnb sites, the other sites which allow the owners of those rentals to upload their information, and they may have a deal going on. The next 15 days, if you rent it, you can get a lower price.
What's the responsibility of the sites in preventing this
So
happening?
that there again, it's very murky. It's very murky. For example, Yahoo, you saw it in the news, right? The hate videos, Yahoo claims it's affecting free speech. You can't really be policing everything which is hate mail or hate videos. So yeah, so it is a murky line. So you can't really be, in fact, your security vendors themselves, they have a disclaimer to say they can't catch all kinds of cyber threats. You can't sue them just because they didn't catch a new kind of threat, which was a zero-day attack.
You're talking about antivirus type of sites or cybersecurity? I mean,
Antivirus software which you've installed, I'm not talking about pop-ups here, I've kind of changed the topic slightly, but liability is something which there's always a clause for any one of the vendors to say they can't guarantee what you're downloading doesn't have malware.
Thanks.
Okay, so let me proceed. I think that I have about 5 or 6 more slides. So ransomware is where a hacker basically makes you download something, and once you download it, locks up your system or encrypts your data, and he demands ransom to really open up the system. And if you don't pay, you can't really do your work. And so there are different kinds of ransomware. Locker is something which locks up your system. Crypto is something which you can get into your system, but it encrypts everything. Leakware is something every time you access certain applications, it leaks information out. And finally, you have mobile ransomware. Now it's affecting your mobile phones also. So what are the 6 best practices for protecting yourself from ransomware? It's very hard to recognize when you're downloading. You can't tell whether ransomware is being downloaded. So better back up your system every day or every week to make sure you can go back to your previous state if your system, all the files on your system gets encrypted. So use a cloud backup, back it up on your network drive, do something to really protect yourself, right? That's the minimum you've got to do. Regularly scan your systems using antivirus software, keeping your OS and applications up to date. So whenever they tell you that the latest update is available for your iOS or your Android, accept it, because they would have done all the checks. And if you notice that in the email chatter that some of the updates are affecting certain kind of functionality, you can hold back because you will get the next update from your provider. Do not click on suspicious links. double check emails, all those are kind of common. You see it's kind of, I'm replaying some of the stuff which you already heard, but those cyber hygiene steps still apply. And so that was about ransomware. And as Bill mentioned, a lot of city governments, and especially in 2017, there was a ransomware called WannaCry. It makes you cry. And that affected whole bunch of hospitals in Europe, in England. In National Health Services, which is their hospitals run by the government, operations had to be postponed because doctors could not access X-ray information in the imaging systems, which were hacked. Production lines for Renault and Volkswagen was stopped because they could not really access the processes. So this happened very rampantly in the summer of 2017. And recently, several cities have been hacked. So all city governments have some kind of monitoring service now. So city governments not only keep your city plans, your housing plans and all. Some of the cities operate signal lights. They operate emergency services through your computers. So it can really grind a city to a halt if they are not monitoring the systems for ransomware. So it is really very, very real and impactful for any of the cities, and not only personally for you, but. So account hijacking is the last one, and then I'm going to talk about the 10 best practices, which is like kind of a recap of what I've said. So bear with me here. I know that I've gone pretty long. So account hijacking is just like somebody having your keys to the front door and coming through the front door to get your information because they stole your password. So no matter what sort of security you may have on your network, they can get in. So the mission is to just access your accounts and steal information. And where do they get your usernames and passwords? You didn't give it to them. They got it directly from the source. They got it from Yahoo, got it from Gmail, got it from other sites which were broken into. And then they sell the username and passwords out on the web, and those username and passwords get replayed by a bot hundreds of times with different usernames to get in and access. So what do you get from Yahoo and Gmail? They say, go ahead and change your email password because our stuff was broken in. Immediately change your username, and not username, but the password so people can't get in. And that's the minimum thing you can do. With that, you get protected. And I'm going to explain other types of protection with multi-factor authentication or one-time passwords, which is another way, one level additional security you can have to protect your passwords. So I did mention what is the impact. So let's get to the best practices for password management. Do not use part of your username in your password because that's the first thing people would try. My last name is Makaram, so Mac123. People would try that to see if that works. Second thing is try to use a phrase which you can remember. In the phrase, of course, these passwords need stronger characters like special characters or exclamation mark or @ symbol for A. So basically, this is saying, not sharing the crazy password with anyone, but there are certain symbols which are replaced, characters replace symbols, and that's typically how you do it, and you would have some sort of convention, and hackers even know that. E is always a 3, A is always a @, so they'll try A first and they'll try @ next and see what happens. But the phrase, only you can remember. So even if they have an automated process of trying out different passwords, getting to a phrase which is 20 characters long, it takes years for the hacker to get to. Use multi-factor authentication. So here is what you can do for your bank accounts. Apart from your password, you can always have a one-time PIN generated by the bank, which is sent to your cell phone. So there is two-factor authentication. It's what you know is your password, and what you possess is your mobile phone, where your key gets. So only your mobile phone gets that key, and it gets a PIN, and you enter it. The third factor of authentication could be a biometric. So what you know, what you possess, and who you are. And that's the most secure way of getting in, of protecting your user identity. and your credentials. So never reveal your password to anyone, not even the support guy who's calling from India to kind of fix your system. And finally, using some sort of password management software, which allows you to, it creates a locker for all the passwords for all the different sites you access. And to open the locker, you have a really secure, highly secure phrase which you use, and the locker cannot be hacked into. And this is becoming very popular. And it's kind of a single point of failure, but at the same time, it helps you make sure that that is running only on your home computers. And there are other things like Okta, which allow you to single sign-on into multiple SaaS applications, like all websites. You have a home version of Okta which can be running. I'm not plugging any of these companies. I'm just saying, giving you examples of how you can really have a locker of all passwords, so you don't have to remember all the passwords for SaaS applications or for all your systems. Any questions here?
Yes, I have a question about using a password manager. If you do use one of those companies or a company to manage your passwords, and what happens if that company goes bankrupt or closes down? Is there any effect on that?
So and then you don't remember any of those passwords, right? So I think that's the thing which is true for any service you use. So the government is not yet imposing end of life policies yet. Most companies, they have end of life policies. Even if the company goes bankrupt for 5 more years, they allow you the service to work, and then you have a transition period for transition from the service to something else. So I'm sure some sort of public forum will be created to not do that if the service is very, very popular, but that could happen to you, right? Question?
Will we need a password manager for the Internet of Things?
So that's a great question. So you don't really enter your password for Internet of Things. That's the worst part. There's some sort of SSL connection gets established between the Internet of Things, with the passwords kind of being used as a key to create another secure session. But sometimes you do have to, and the Internet of Things is using a password to really communicate with its home site to download the next update of software. That can be the weakest link. So that's a good question. So there's no password you use to regularly communicate Internet of Things. They actually work automatically. And on the Internet of Things and Alexa, you basically use password to log into Spotify, create that connection. Once that connection is created, it knows how to get to Spotify. So just imagine somebody can get into Alexa and get into your Spotify account, get into something else from there and migrate. So, but again, what sort of personal identifiable information can they get? They can get your playlist. Doesn't really make a difference. But so you should think of what can they get and what password you should not expose when you're thinking of Internet of Things. Question?
What is that Incognito window about? How reliable?
So
what's that
Incognito,
used for?
setting up a browser with Incognito basically says they won't share your keys, your cookies. Cookies have so much of information about not only what site you're visiting, but what other sites you've visited. So when you set up your browser as Incognito, the browser disables cookies. So you are like anonymous visiting sites, so they can't record who you are. Yeah, of course. You could do everything incognito. But sometimes what happens is you want to get into some sort of, you want them to recognize your previous state, so you don't have to, when you're going through a travel site, you've booked so much, you've booked the dates, but you haven't done the final booking. You get out of there, check something else, and come back. You want them to recognize your previous state. So it's basically helping you for ease of use. But with Incognito, you can re-enter everything and get in. So the browser does not share your cookies with the sites which you're visiting.
So the short story is Incognito is legit.
Absolutely. Or the other way is using a VPN. So I'm going to get to that in the top 10. So using a VPN, like NordVPN, where they don't expose who you are totally, your entire session from your laptop, your phone, all the way, so you're not exposing it to Google. So for example, sometimes when you log in somewhere, they say, hey, can I help you? You can log in through Facebook or Google. You know what they're doing? Google and Facebook is collecting all this information on where all you visited to remarket new kinds of products to you based on what you have searched lately. So it's better to create your own account in sites rather than log in through Facebook. But even though it's very easy to use because you don't have to remember, you just have to remember Facebook password. Facebook is collecting so much of information on you, you don't even know that you had that information on you. So Incognito is a great way to really avoid sharing your information. Yeah.
I'm a little bit suspicious of any time I see free software, especially for passwords, storing passwords. How do you know these are legitimate, and what's the motivation for them to supply free software for your passwords?
That's a great question. So what I do is, you do have to do the research on what are the top 10 free password management software which is available. I would say if you can pay for something, get it rather than get it free, because nothing is free. So you're giving up something when it's free, right? So, but some of these have been around for quite a few years, and there are review sites which tell you what are the top 10, and you have feedback. So you better do your research before or talk to somebody who you believe is computer savvy to get information. So what I'm saying is not all like coming from a Bible or the Gita. Some of them you have to do your research and really find out on your own, right? So let's go to the top 10. I'm just going to close it off with this. So we have about 10 more minutes. And I'm glad it's interactive, so you're asking questions. So reason number one, top 10 best practices. Number one is use strong passwords. Passwords which is not just meeting your minimum 8 characters, but 12 characters, 20 characters, a phrase with your special characters and numbers. Absolutely, that's the only thing preventing a hacker from getting into your accounts, coming through the front door. Number two, use different identities and passwords for different categories of sites you visit. So travel sites, you have one sort of username, but maybe you can use the same username, a different password, because you don't want to remember 20 passwords and write it down in a book, right? So have, for all the travel sites, one type of password. For all the financial sites, one type of password. For all your insurance, one type of password. So that way, it's easy for you to manage in your head. Of course, your wife will bug you to say, why did you change the password yesterday? I can't get in. And that happens to me very often. So my wife is sitting right there. So I would say having different categories of passwords for different types of sites based on the criticality of information. Number three, avoid clicking on suspicious links or attachments. So always verify the source of the email. Always hover over the link to see what is the link, where is it pointing to, if you don't recognize it. If it doesn't start with HTTPS, it's HTTP, then what is the problem? Does anybody have an answer for that? It's not secure, right? So with HTTPS, there is a certificate which is issued by a trusted authority to the website, and you can always verify the certificate. And the certificate has a public key and a private key pair. And when the SSL connection gets established, I'm getting technical here, but for some people who may understand this, a secure connection gets established from your browser to the website. The browser is verifying whether the certificate is legit, whether it's truly Wells Fargo. Then only it establishes a secure key to encrypt your session. So all that is happening behind the back using SSL, or what is called as TLS. So with that, they are at least telling you that you are talking to a site which is legit. But the site doesn't know who you are. So for that, the site uses your password to authenticate you, and then helps you with a one-time key to make sure you are truly what you are. Or sometimes you get what is called as CAPTCHA, which is a set of characters which is kind of squiggling and waving, and you have to enter that. And the site wants to know it's not a bot on the other end, and somebody is reading it and entering. If it's a bot, what it can do is it can take all the passwords which are stolen and the usernames, try to replay that in 10 minutes, 100,000 usernames and passwords to see whatever can get in. So to prevent a bot from accessing the website, asks you to enter the squiggly characters to know it's a human behind the keyboard who's entering the letters, which are not readable by a machine because it is in so many different colors. It's not recognizable. So yeah, so suspicious sites. Run antivirus and download software as soon as updates come in. And this is the fourth and fifth. So install the latest software patches, because the software patches are basically, none of the software is created by human beings. Human beings can create mistakes. There are loopholes in software which only NSA knows, National Security Agency knows, or a hacker in Russia or Iran knows. And they're exploiting those loopholes to really monitor you. So those loopholes, for example, for WannaCry, NSA created this Eternal Blue malware, which they were using to snoop on you. That got out into the wild, and that's how hackers got in. And they used it to send malware and ransomware to lock out so many computers. So effectively, I think updating your software as fast as possible. Even if you run out of storage, delete all the photos which you have and download the software as fast as possible. Then limit use of public Wi-Fi. This is where the VPN comes in. So if you're sitting in Starbucks trying to access your bank account to see whether you have enough money to pay for your coffee, so in the Wi-Fi, everything is going in the clear. Anybody can use Wireshark to really see what sort of traffic is going on public Wi-Fi to get your username and password. So use a VPN, or make sure you're talking to a site which starts with HTTPS. Your mobile phones, applications already use some level of security to make sure that you're using legit applications to really talk to secure sites. Limit sharing PII data with anybody. Ask why. Why do you need it? Why do you need my social security number before you give it to them? Enable privacy settings and set up alerts. So basically, if you have a bank account, set up an alert to say, anybody does an automatic transaction, I need to be alerted. Any withdrawals which happen above $500, I need to be alerted. On your Equifax and other credit monitoring services, set up alerts for anybody who applies for a loan using your social security number, because only you should be doing it. If somebody is doing it, your social security number is out in the wild for somebody to really use your credit history to get a loan. And somebody can take your Amazon password, charge for something which they buy, change the shipping address, and buy something from your credit card. So this is very important. If you have a shared computer at home, don't just have one username and password which has administrative rights and everybody shares the same thing. Because if kids get on the computer system, now everybody has their own computer system, which is their cell phone. But when I was here earlier in this country, 10, 15 years back, our system was being shared by everybody. So if they don't have an unprivileged account, which doesn't have administrative rights, that is good, because then they can't download any applications which are really bad, which is monitoring you or snooping on you. So create unprivileged accounts for your kids and even for your wife or the spouse. And that way you have less damage. And finally, download applications only from trusted stores. What is trusted? Again, it's how do you know that? So typically, if you're using iPhone, Apple Store, Android Marketplace, antivirus, you only get it from Norton, don't get it from another intermediate site, and so on. Yeah? So with that, I'm ending my presentation, so I'm open for questions for, it's already 11, but yeah. I think, I don't know, is Bill here? Can we wrap it up with 2 questions? Sure. Okay.
Okay, I know that using the internet, for example, at McDonald's is not safe. What about the Wi-Fi in the hotel that you're staying at when you're overseas?
So absolutely, not even overseas, here too. You can use the Wi-Fi.
In the hotel room.
Yes, you can, but whenever you are using the Wi-Fi to get to your bank accounts, make sure you are talking to a secure site, so any data you send from your laptop to your bank is encrypted. So even if somebody is snooping, they will see gobbledygook on the wire. They won't know what is going. One last question.
Come in.
So what's a secure way to send documents to an acquaintance over the internet? I mean, is an email attachment, Yahoo Mail secure?
If the document has PII data like your social security number or your bank accounts, always encrypt it. You could use Dropbox, which have secure ways.
So Dropbox is secure and encrypted and all that sort of thing. But email, like Yahoo email, is
definitely not. Gmail is not. It's not encrypted. Yahoo is not encrypted. You could get secure email services applications, but generally nowadays sharing information by Dropbox, Box, or even a Google Doc. But Google Doc can be hacked into. Anything can be hacked into. So even Dropbox, whoever has your Dropbox account or gets into your Dropbox, but it's relatively safer as compared to sending an attachment with social security numbers over the email.
Or a bank account number or something.
Yes, yeah. So anything which has PII data, you want to make sure it is safe and protected. And so using services which offer you level of protection like Dropbox is a way to really help you protect your data.
Thank you.
So with that, let me hand it back to Bill.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Join me in applause. So again, thank you very much for attending today. I hope you found it enjoyable and informative. So I think the key word out there is be cynical and be safe. So thank you very much.